We hinted at this a little bit earlier, and I was trying to make a list of reasons to root for one of these teams. If you're just a neutral observer, maybe you're just like, they're a casual fan in general, or your team didn't even play in the postseason. You're like, I want to pull for somebody. I have reasons for each side, and I'm curious if you have more to add. Why root for Houston? I've got Dusty Baker as a manager with no titles to show for it yet. I think that's like top of the list. You want to root for the
Guy
storyline
invented
here?
the high five, dude. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's pretty prolific, right?
Yeah.
I think other things, Justin Verlander could shake off the World Series performance narratives. It'd be nice to see him pitch really well for a couple of starts and just kind of push that aside. That'd be fine. And then Yordan Alvarez, who's been one of the best hitters in baseball since showing up in 2019, to see him get a World Series, that's a cool thing to root for, too. My why root for Philadelphia list was they're not Houston. It's Bryce Harper's first appearance in the World Series, and we spend a lot of time whining, I guess I'll say, about Mike Trout not playing October baseball. And for years, it was Harper Trout,
Yeah.
Harper Trout. Well, now Harper's here, so let's see the star shine
Also,
through and win.
Yeah. And like pro spending on players, like the Phillies went out and bought some players, like they went and spent money and got better, and here they are, like let's reward teams that try.
Yeah.
I guess the flip side is, rooting for player development is I don't know.
It's kind of a double-edged sword. You can't really root for that, and then realize like you're kind
I know
of.
they're kind of intertwined, right? Like, let me root for player development, but I also like them spending on players. But I also, it is kind of cool to see a team with its own players, like develop its own players and like bring Jeremy Pena, Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, like Luis Garcia, Christian Javier, like they brought all these guys up within the organization and made them better. And they made them better with all the best data and tech they could do. And like, there is something cool about that. But in terms of like, the players would probably be rooting for the Phillies for a couple of reasons. I mean, there's the cheating scandal, then there's also the Phillies are pro free agency, shall we say?
Yeah. I think there's a couple different reasons also. Like Rob Thompson's a hard guy to not root for. He's a baseball guy. He's a kind of a lifer. If you're a Yankees fan, he came from the Yankees background, right? So you kind of appreciate him and the job he's done. On the Astros side, Trey Mancini, cancer survivor, now in the World Series. How do you not root for that guy? Even if you hate Houston and hate all their players, how do you root against Trey Mancini? I think that's a kind of something to root for as well. Other people like the underdogs, right? And the Phillies are the underdogs here. I mean, this is a team that has at an interim manager. They fired Joe Girardi, and they're in this World Series. So there's some interesting things, I think, on both sides that you can kind of root for. Everyone loves Dusty in this game. So it will be interesting. When the Nationals were in the World Series in 19, I know they heard from so many people that were like, beat those cheaters. Like people thought they were cheating for a long time in the baseball circles before it was proven in the athletics report. But I'm curious now if that perception has changed because the team is so different now. I know a lot of people were kind of made it the Nationals, Astros out to be like, okay, people who believe in player development versus computers, people who believe in like, more old school approach versus analytics. And I don't think that's the case here with Philly at all. I think Philly is a team that still embraces that side of things. I just am curious how many players are like, you know what? Can somebody besides Houston be there? Can somebody just beat Houston once for all? I don't know if that feeling still exists as much in these clubhouses. I think this is a more likable Astros team than it has been.
True. And as
how many people
Eric points out here, how many people are left over? I mean, to me, you think of sort of Bregman, Altuve, and Altuve's being lumped in with it has been something that's been debated very much. So, did he benefit as much? Did he even take part? That was a big part of it. And then you kind of focus on the hitters for that bit. So I think was Brantley even on that team?
I don't think so.
I think he got signed after that.
Yeah.
So not that many left over. One thing I also think about is if you're a fan of a team that has been really good for a long time, but doesn't have that many titles to show for them.
Like the Dodgers?
I remember. Like it doesn't work with the Dodgers. I know. I was gonna go with the Braves because I grew up in Atlanta, and I remember being so annoyed that people like wouldn't give us the dynasty tag because the Braves only won one in that that 10-year dominant cycle they had, and so in that case, the Astros should have another title for their dominance. They've been a dominant team. They've been a dynasty. And so they should have another title, quote unquote. But yes, Dodgers fans, no amount of words that I can spend here will convince a Dodgers fan to root for the Astros. I don't think.
Don't even bother.